Hey everyone, and welcome. Today we're jumping into a devotional text called The Oppressor's End, and it has this really powerful take on spiritual victory. The core idea? That the battle has already been won. We're going to break down exactly how it builds that argument, piece by piece.
So everything we're about to talk about really flows from this one single verse in Revelation. The text uses this as its absolute foundation, a final, unchangeable verdict. From the get-go, the message is crystal clear. The end of the story, well, it's already been written.
All right, here's our roadmap. First, we'll get a clear picture of who this spiritual oppressor is. Then, we'll dive into what a sealed fate really means and how that shapes the core message of victory. After that, we'll look at the practical call to action and see how it all connects to a much bigger global mission. Okay, so first things first. Before we can even begin to talk about victory, we've got to understand the conflict. And the source material frames this entire thing around one central antagonist it simply calls the oppressor. And here's the definition it gives us. The oppressor is Satan, an entity whose whole goal is to oppress and destroy. But, and this is huge, pay close attention to that last part, his power is described as temporary. That one word is the key to, well, everything that follows. Now this is where the perspective really flips the script. The source doesn't talk about this like it's some kind of ongoing nail-biter of a battle. No, it argues the outcome has already been decided, and it's completely sealed.
You see, the whole theme here is certainty. By hammering home this idea of a predetermined conclusion, this eternal judgment, the text is really trying to take fear and anxiety right off the table. According to the author, the outcome is not up for debate. It's a done deal.
So, the big question is, if the end is already written, what in the world does that mean for believers in the here and now? And that question gets us right to the absolute heart of this whole devotional.
And this right here just brilliantly illustrates the massive shift in mindset the text is getting at. It's the huge difference between fighting for victory, which implies the outcome is still uncertain, and fighting from victory, which means you're acting with the full confidence that the war is already over. Honestly, this one sentence, this is the linchpin. It's the key takeaway. It just boils down that whole complex theological argument into one powerful, memorable statement. If you remember one thing from the message, this is it. Okay, so this is where the whole thing makes a big pivot. We move from the big theological concept to a much more personal, practical question. How do you actually live this out day to day? And the source asks this question directly, which is great because it shifts us from just knowing something to actually doing something. So what does it suggest we do? Well, it lays out this really clear three-step process. Think of it like a daily practice. First, you actively remind yourself that the oppressor is defeated. Then, you reflect on what that victory means for you personally. And finally, you let that confidence fuel you and strengthen your resolve. Now, a really significant part of the text is dedicated to what it calls a prayer of salvation. It's offered as a direct path for anyone who wants to fully embrace this faith. We're going to walk through it. So the prayer starts with an acknowledgement of being a sinner and then a declaration of belief in the absolute core tenets of the Christian faith, that Jesus is God's Son who died and was resurrected. From there, it moves into a very personal confession and a request, asking for forgiveness and to be made into what the text calls a new creation. And it wraps up with a commitment, a choice to follow this path from this day forward, and it ends with gratitude for salvation and eternal life. And that's the prayer, just as it's laid out in the text. And you know, right after that prayer, the source doesn't just leave you hanging. It immediately offers a free resource, an ebook, to help support anyone who has just made that commitment, to help them understand what it means to be, in their words, born again. And this is where the focus really zooms out. The message expands from an individual's personal faith journey to a call to join something much, much bigger, a community with a massive global mission. And that mission has a name. It's called Operation 500 Million Souls for Christ. It's a pretty bold title that makes their goal of large-scale global outreach incredibly clear. So how can you be a part of it? The text lays out three really specific avenues. You can become a prayer partner, you can volunteer as a missionary, or you can provide financial support as what they call a kingdom investor. And for those prayer partners, they've set up this incredible coordinated schedule. I mean, just look at this. It's a global, round-the-clock effort with specific times laid out for people all over the world. It really shows you the massive international scope of their network. And finally, of course, they provide a whole bunch of ways to stay plugged in.
They're using modern tools like WhatsApp and Telegram, they're all over social media, and they also offer the more traditional routes like email and a direct phone number.
So, the whole text doesn't end with a neat little summary. Instead, it builds to this one last thought, this final provocative question that it leaves you to wrestle with. Are you prepared for what it claims is coming? It's designed to make you stop and really reflect on everything we've just talked about.
Good day, beloved. Thank you for watching. If this kingdom message has blessed you, please like, comment, and share with someone today. Stay connected with God's servant David Felix Nwefulu by subscribing for more daily kingdom inspirations and turn on your notification button so you do not miss a word that strengthens your faith. God bless you.